Please watch this video provided by Stanford University. The ethical debate surrounding animal experimentation is complex and multifaceted. On one side, many argue about the benefits of animal research as it benefits the scientific and medical fields. And on the other side, they argue about the suffering and the harm inflicted on animals. However, as seen in the video, the benefits of animal experimentation outweighs the negatives. Good morning, my name is Mark Colson, and today I'll be talking about the public's effect on animal experimentation. My research answers the question, to what extent does the public's perception of animal experimentation impact the development of science in the 21st century? My answer is, the public's perception of animal experimentation has restricted the progression of scientific research in the 21st century by affecting funding for animal research, shaping regulatory compliance, and popularizing alternative methods. What is animal experimentation? Animal experimentation is a research method that involves using living animals as experimental subjects to further development of scientific fields of research. Using animals in biomedical research is important because animals are biologically similar to us. In fact, mice share over 98% DNA with us. Animals also share many health conditions with us and have shorter life cycles. This allows scientists to test out new drugs and medical therapies and observe the effects of it throughout their life cycles. Throughout the decades, the use of animals in research has increased drastically. With the ability to improve scientific development, scientists around the world have demanded a greater number of animals to be used in research. In the chart provided by the National Library of Medicine, it shows that from 1960 to the early 2000s, animals used in biomedical research has increased by 8 times throughout the years. Today I'll be talking about the claims funding for animal research, regulatory compliance, and the popularizing of alternative research methods. According to Mark Trace, an American journalist and management editor at Air and Space Quarterly, discusses how the U.S. public is closely divided regarding the use of animals in scientific research. He uses the stimulus here provided by the Pew Research Center to show how most Americans do not realize the benefits of animals in research. In this survey results, it shows that 52% of U.S. adults oppose animal research and 40% are in favor of it. We can also see that the participants with a high level of science knowledge were in favor, and those with a low level of scientific knowledge were against the use of animals. According to the Institution for Laboratory Animal Research, the authors argued that scientific and advocacy groups don't have many opportunities to explain to media why research on animals are necessary, saying that something needs to be done to halt the decline in public acceptance, demonstrating how the public's perception can severely influence the progression of science, as this can affect funding for research because organizations that rely on public donations to conduct experiments will not be able to financially continue research. Because of public disapproval and being viewed negatively, will not only damage the reputation of organizations, but can also be reduced by legislation. The authors of Management of Animal Care and Use Programs in Research, Education, and Testing discuss how the use of animals in research and testing has consistently polarized public opinion, and governments have recognized a need of the use of regulations to address the ethical responsibility for acknowledging the needs of the animals used for societal purposes. Regulations therefore provide a means of reassuring the public that animal use is limited to situations of strictly necessity and conforms to their demands. These regulations create a sense of security for the public and provide oversight of the organization, ensuring that they follow the established standards and that the scientists follow ethical guidelines through self-regulation and trust. The authority to use animals in research is given to the organization, not the individual scientist. If the regulations are broken, the organizations will be penalized and not the individual scientists. In this diagram, you can see that the steps that scientists need to go through in order to use animals in their experimentation. First, they have to go through the ethical principles, regulation guidelines, publication industry and industry standards, and then institutional policies and institutional procedures. In other words, the organizations use self-regulation to ensure that both they and the scientists are following the standards. According to the National Institute of Health, scientists must clearly explain why animals are necessary for their research and minimal number needed to ensure the regular reproducibility that will be used when proposing the IDs to the NIH for funding and throughout the research activity itself. Every NIH scientist needs to describe their reasons for their animals and how they are going to improve science. They also need to describe how they will minimize any discomfort the animals may feel. And the College Board provides stimulus, moral courage, and intelligent disobedience. William Miller, in his book The Mystery of Courage, defines moral courage as the capacity to overcome the fear of shame and humiliation in order to admit one's misrule, to confess a wrong, to reject evil conformity, to denounce injustice, and defy immoral and prudent orders. This shows how scientists don't use animals with the intention of harming them. The public influences the implementation of new laws which scientists abide by, justifying that the animals was used toward a good and necessary cause. According to Akayo Ukikoshi, a faculty at Tokyo University Center for Laboratory Animal Research, discusses a survey of public awareness concerning animal research in 2016. It indicates that 71% of animals can accept the use of animals in scientific research so long as there is no alternative, showing how the public is only in favor of animal experimentation if there is no alternative. But alternatives are not effective as using the living organism. Although alternatives exist and advancements are being made every day towards it, it is not as effective that it could be fully replace animal research. These alternatives were influenced by the public avoiding harming animals and will allow effective research results. However, the technology limitations of this relatively new method of research will not be able to replicate the type of result an animal will be able to give. My solutions to this is that more media coverage on the benefits of animal research should be implemented, and educating people at low level of scientific knowledge, and upholding ethical guidelines and encouraging the public to engagement to foster understanding and trust. The limitations to these is that animal experimentation should always be viewed as an equity because animal and human relationships. The public will also prefer an alternative even though they are less effective.
All right. How'd your research question evolve as you worked your way through the process?
So first of all, my research question was talking about like what animal experimentation was. Like it was more like an informative question. And like once I was researching like what animal experimentation is, I saw like there was like huge debates on whether it was like good or whether it was bad. So I chose the good side because there was like less evidence explaining it, and there was like more research just justifying why it was wrong, not like including evidence how it like benefited society.
Okay. And what questions popped up to you as you were working your way through everything?
So some questions that popped up were like how animals were exactly used in experiments. So like how like what type of like research they were using, like biomedical or cosmetics. So I chose like biomedical research